Hello, everyone. I am live. I'm live on YouTube for the first time in a long time. So, thank you so much if you're watching. I just thought it'd be fun to do a little live stream today because I've recently kind of relaunched my channel, putting up like a load of interviews and stuff like that. So, I want to get back to the live streaming. So, today I'm just going to talk about anything and everything. So if you have anything you've ever wanted to ask me about wrestling, AEW, WWE, even like career stuff or whatever, now is the time. And of course, I would very much appreciate any super chat to help the channel. But I just want to talk about anything that's going on. And yeah, now I was a little late because I am currently dealing with some very bad sciatica. I was talking about it on Twitter last night. It's awful, man. I can't really walk like long distances, and it's come at the worst time ever because I have to get on a plane on Monday on like an 8-hour flight or whatever back to the UK. So it's really not the time to be, struck down with a really, really like bad pain and that. But it happened. And like this morning, it was super bad this morning. I woke up at like 6 a.m. from the pain and then like passed out. So then I was like, oh shit, I don't think I'm going to make it for 12 to do this. So, but anyway, I'm here. Glad I'm here. So, what should we talk about first? Until someone asks a question, I just want to say, like, it's really weird that we're not weird, but I can't believe that we're only a couple of days away from All In at Wembley in London. It's come around so quickly from last year, like unbelievably quickly. And am I excited? Yes, I think the build this year has been way better than last year. And I think last year there was a lot of talk from people based in the UK, like myself and the Grapple lads, like about how bad the build was, because it is a show in Wembley Stadium. And I think a lot of people that don't know about Wembley like didn't get that, but hopefully they get that now. And I think they've done a much better job with the build. The main event being Swerve and Dawson, I think that's going to be really cool. But I have to say, I am on the side of I'd rather it be Hangman. Like that's the side that I'm on. But apparently, it's Hangman in Chicago, and I'm going to be there in Chicago too. So I guess I'm going to get everything I want, which is awesome. Let me see some of the people that are saying hi here. Hi to Maria. Hello, thank you. I've seen you comment on a lot of my videos, and thank you so much for the support. Hey, it's the Grapple lads. You know what? I might be secretly using their StreamYard. So thank you to Grapple for basically funding this, because I wasn't going to pay for StreamYard for one show. So thank you. Hello to Jay. He said, I just watched your interview with Jade Cargill. Thank you. Yes, I interviewed Jade Cargill earlier in the week. When did I do it? It was Tuesday, I think. I've wanted to interview Jade for a very long time, starting when she was with AEW. And I think she's such an interesting subject. She's like one of the few wrestlers that there are so many people that have seen every single match that she's done, except for the house shows that she's currently doing with WWE. So we've all got to like properly follow her career, and I do think she gets a lot of undeserved criticism, but at the same time, like, she is still green because she was thrown in at the deep end. So I find her very interesting. She was very nice. During the interview. I really like her personality a lot, and I have seen her in person a couple of times. I saw her in person quite a bit when I was in Las Vegas for Double or Nothing, not the most recent one, but the one before that. And I saw a really nice interaction between her and a little girl. I'll never forget. And I think when you see those things, it makes you like just feel really positive about wrestling. And especially when it's a little girl, because Wrestling's historically, not been for little girls at all. So to see like a little girl be so excited to meet Jade Cargill and take a photo of Jade Cargill was really sweet. And I also saw her once at nighttime, and she and Ricky Starks were heading out like on the town, and she looked incredible. I've never seen anyone look that good, and Ricky looked good too. But that's why I wanted to ask about their friendship, because they are like quite the pair. If you see them together, they're obviously very close, and I love that. Ed says, hey Ed. John says, hope you get better. Thank you. I hope I get better too. I really hope I get better too. Okay, we have a question from John. Do you believe any of the AEW roster not being happy? Because I don't. I think there are some people in AEW who are definitely not happy. And I'm sure there's some people in WWE who aren't happy too. But yeah, I do believe that there's some unhappiness among the roster. There was the incident recently between MJF and Britt Baker. There's obviously some unhappiness there, but like there's always going to be people happy in any roster. And yeah, I think there is some in AEW. We just talked about Ricky Starks. I don't really know what's going on with Ricky Starks, but my belief right now is that he probably is headed to WWE. And when you look at someone like him, if he does decide to jump, like I can't really blame him, because I know he's had some injuries, but he's had like a very stop-start career. There's been times when it felt like they were really going with Ricky Starks, and then they didn't. I think that the feud that he had a feud with Jericho that there was a match Revolution 2022, I think, or was it 2023? I think maybe 2023. But anyway, I interviewed him before that match, like days before. I kind of got the vibe that like he wasn't into that, but that like feud is just another example of the kind of stop-start push that he's had. And there's been some times that he's been like so great, and then it feels like they've forgotten about him. And I think when it comes to the young guys, sorry, I'm putting on icy hot doing this. You'll have to put up with my self-medicate here. But I think when it comes to the young guys, right, and if any of them aren't happy, so like there's Ricky Starks, Daniel Garcia, there's some like dark web rumors about people that might jump to WWE, to NXT, to whatever. I can really understand with the young guys, because I think that AEW has a real problem with moving people up the card. Now, MJF is the anomaly, right? MJF came in with nothing, with no like national TV exposure, and now he's the world champion. Swerve came in having had a WWE run that like wasn't great. Swerve wasn't Jon Moxley or Bryan Danielson, but he made it too. But for some of the younger guys, they always seem to be stuck in the same position. I think that you can see that with Ricky. You can see that like Hook fighting for the FTW belt at Wembley 2 years in a row, with the same kind of storyline, like guy that he initially like teamed with and then turned on him. Daniel Garcia, I have a lot to say about Daniel Garcia. But you just think back to like the early days of Dynamite, and they had matches like, they had a match, for example, like Darby Allin versus Chris Jericho. And Darby's had a great run in AEW, but he still hasn't really moved up the card. And I think when you watch stuff like that in the early days, and that was one of the things that was really exciting about Dynamite, you were seeing these young guys getting a chance to get in the ring with these established guys. But I don't think there's just not the move up the card that there should be. And I think some of that was stagnated by Cody Rhodes deciding not to ever fight for the AEW championship, and instead take the TNT belt, which should have been used better as an intercontinental belt, like in the old days that moved people up. So anyway, the initial question, and thank you for that, John. And please, guys watching, send in your questions so I have topics to go on. But yeah, I do think that there is in the roster. Ed says, what do you think is the issue for the differences in building to AEW pay-per-views and Ring of Honor pay-per-views? I think Ring of Honor just struggles with how their TV is, like the Honor Club, which not a lot of people are watching that. And the way that they were doing tapings, like doing tapings after AEW shows, I don't think benefits Ring of Honor. But I think that this little run that they've had in Arlington has been really helpful to them. I think it's kind of helped their creative, but what Ring of Honor really needs, I think, is just someone other than Tony Khan being in charge, because he just has too much on his plate, and it's hard for him to book all these shows. And I think if you had someone whose total job was on and were completely like dedicated to that, they weren't looking at AEW, I think that Ring of Honor would be a lot better. Darren says, hi Darren. Fernando says hello. Okay, John says, I can't wait for AEW to get the TV deal done just so all the trolls can finally shut up about AEW closing down. Yeah, the AEW like trolls / podcast grifter market is really funny. Like, there's a lot of criticisms you can make about AEW, and hey, I've certainly made them, but there's a lot of people doing it in bad faith. Like, people who are, I was about today, and I'm not going to name names, right? But I was looking at someone who did an interview with an AEW talent, right? And they were an ex WWE AEW talent, and I just felt like it's so funny that this person is doing this interview, because like, I know personally, if I talk to people, like, they just don't like AEW at all because there's so much of a fathead. And I think a lot of these people come from the place where, like, they're almost offended that someone tried to challenge WWE. Like, that's like offensive to them that you would try and take on WWE, and that's just such a funny mindset. But the TV deal stuff, like, the TV deal has been going on like a very long time, and I think I think they're negotiating on more than just money. That's kind of my opinion. I think they're also negotiating certain things, like what they can do on TV, maybe, because WWE is moving to Netflix, as we know, and I really think that WWE and Netflix is not going to be PG. Like, they're going to push the boundaries a little bit. And I think that AEW are aware that they have to compete with that. So I think there's a lot going on with the TV negotiations. I do think, though, David Zaslav seems like he seems like the worst person to try and work with. So I think it's unfortunate that Tony seems so tied to him. Sometimes Tony is like the only person that will praise David Zaslav. But it will be good when the TV deal's done, because I think a lot of people use the fact that they haven't got it done yet to say, like, the most insane negative stuff about AEW. Like, this company is not closing down, even if they don't get a TV deal. Like, it's very clear that Tony Khan is willing to invest a ton of money in AEW, and he's not going to let it, close. So I can't wait for the TV deal to be done, because I'm sick of talking about it too, and I'm sick of hearing about it. But yeah, and the other funny thing, because last weekend I was like bored, and my YouTube algorithm sent me to like a anti-AEW like YouTube channel, like one of these channels where every video is like, AEW is dying, like AEW is dying, and all this stuff. And I listened and watched like a couple of these videos just to see like what these people are saying and what their justification for feeling this way is. And so many of them like seem to blame the Young Bucks, which I think is like so funny. So many of them are like, yeah, the Young Bucks have Tony Khan's ear, and that's why like things are shit and whatever. And man, I don't, if there's bad creative, unless it directly involves the Young Bucks, I don't believe like they're involved at all. I don't think that they seem like they they seem like really checked out. So I really don't believe for a second that the Young Bucks are sitting with Tony Khan and coming up with like ideas for creative and stuff like that, or anything. Like I don't think the Young Bucks are like part of the overall problem, but it's just funny that people like uh, are blaming them, because I think a lot of the AEW pods, they're such fans of WWE that they're not going to say anything bad about the ex-WWE guys, so they're never going to be like, oh, Bryan Danielson bad creative, Jericho bad creative, Moxley bad creative, or anything like that. Like they seem to think that Tony Khan is like legit sitting out with Buck night like after shows and stuff, and like I don't believe that for a second. Jay said in the interview, Jade interview, she may have spoiled something when she said she's winning the tag belt back. Yeah, I was really shocked when she said that. I don't, excuse me, I don't even think that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the tag match is even announced for Bash in Berlin. And she was just like, yeah, we're winning those belts back in Berlin. I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think she did give like a little spoiler there. One of the things I think that was refreshing about interviewing her is she seemed very honest and not like highly trained in a negative way, because like, there's some people I've interviewed that it's like drawing blood from a stone. Like they want to give really short, bad answers to everything that you can't use, or they want to like stay completely in character. And it's so frustrating. But Jade was awesome. She was really refreshing. Like she didn't, she wasn't doing her Jade Cargill character or anything like that. And I think she had some stuff that she really wanted to say that she was able to say, especially about people, like the criticism she gets and stuff like that. So I think Jade did give a little spoiler there. Let me see. Ed, another question. Who would you use to do that job to book Ring of Honor? Bryan Danielson, Paul White, Nigel McGuinness. Oh, God. I'd maybe like bring back Carrie Silken or something. I think Danielson could do a good job with it, but I think he's probably tied up in working with AEW, and because Tony seems to like use Bryan the most. Like Tony's the guy, or Bryan's the guy that Tony's gonna like leave the company to. So Bryan might suffer the same problem of like being distracted. I'm not sure about what Nigel McGuinness would be like as a booker. I don't know. I personally wouldn't give that job to Nigel. Paul White, absolutely not. That was so funny when they had him on, when they like have him on Ring of Honor. Like I can't think of a job that I would give to Paul White, honestly. Like, not being mean, but he's one of the people that if I was cutting costs, he'd be out the door. So I definitely would give the job of Ring of Honor booker to Paul White. Maybe like a QT Marshall or someone, if he wants to really focus on it. He might be quite good. But yeah. Matt Walsh says, do you think Jericho boosts up everyone that he works with and against? Matt, what a question. this is one I could do like a full video on. Do I think that Jericho beats up everyone that he works with and against? No. I think it's the opposite. And it's gotten really bad recently. There are some feuds, like early on, he had some like great feuds, right? And I think his work with Orange Cassidy, for example, like that's always cited. I think he did boost Orange Cassidy, but then I think the booking of Orange Cassidy after that didn't allow what Jericho did to take proper effect. And Orange Cassidy, his growth over the past 5 years has been minimal, but he is like a reliable AEW guy. He's always going to have a good match, stuff like that. I actually do think that Jericho helped MJF, but their feud went too long. But I think the stuff he did with MJF was pretty good. I mean, some of it was kind of daft, like when they did the sing-along and stuff, but the rest of it was good. But there's been more bad than good, especially recently. Now, I don't think I can remember all of his feuds. I mentioned there Ricky Starks earlier. So if we start at that time place, do I think he helped Ricky Starks? No. I don't think that was a good feud for Ricky. I think Ricky was on a really good trajectory. And then he got sucked into the Jericho vortex, a term that has been reclaimed by Jericho himself, but that was bad. The feud with Adam Cole. See, Matt, this question is probably going to ruin the stream because I might rant for a long time and people will turn off. But Jericho's feud with Adam Cole is like my worst feud in AEW history, and I hated that so much. And Adam Cole's time in AEW has been kind of sad. Like his injuries have been really unfortunate, but he definitely he came into AEW with a lot of hype, and I don't think it worked out for him. But his feud with Jericho was awful, and that segment where Britt like came in to save him, and he was like handcuffed or something. Like, remember that segment? And there were some people saying like, this is one of the best Dynamite segments ever. I thought it was one of the absolute worst. I thought taking Britt Baker, who is the homegrown star of the women's division, 100%. Like, whatever you think of Britt, the woman in this company has gotten over in the level of Britt Baker. To take her and put her in that situation of like being the girlfriend, really, really didn't work. Like, that made me so angry watching it. It really put me on the idea of asking Tony Khan multiple times if there were any women involved in creative, because I find the whole Britt, Adam, Jericho thing extremely misogynist. There was a lot of things then afterwards when they were doing the feud that Jericho would say that were very misogynist. I don't think I want to go into the t-shirt incident, but that's something I think about a lot and wish I'd kind of talked about at the time. But that feud was fucking awful. And then when they did the match with Adam Cole at Double or Nothing was the worst AEW match of all time, done by two guys who are veterans, basically. Like, I saw Parker Bordeaux shit the bed so hard once live that it was terrible, and I know that everyone in the back thought it was terrible, and then he was out. You're talking about two actually established guys, veterans. Adam Cole versus Jericho at Double or Nothing, worst AEW match of all time. And then everyone says, oh, but the tag match was good. But Jericho teamed with Saraya, which was pretty gross, actually. And why ever he was teaming with Soraya when he has women in his faction is beyond me. So like that was awful. So yeah, he did nothing for Adam Cole. I don't think he's done what he thinks he's done for Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia had some stuff to learn, but making him dance for months on end isn't as big a win as you think it is. And also Garcia, when he chose Jericho, it was in Canada and the crowd cheered when the crowd had previously been wanting him to choose Danielson. And I thought that was like a really shitty way to do that story beat, a really selfish way on Jericho's part to do that story beat. So don't think it's benefited Daniel Garcia. So Santana and Ortiz definitely didn't benefit. And Hook shit the bed on Dynamite, honestly, and I don't want to, be offensive, but I'm sure Hook's not watching the stream. That was really bad, that segment on Dynamite, and I was just like, what has he been taught since doing this feud with Jericho? Because I don't think he's improved as a worker. His promo was really, really bad. And the feud's just been awful. I think he could have learned a lot more with Samoa Joe. So, no, I don't think that he boosts up everyone that he works with and against. And I think it's very clever by him that he's like reclaimed Jericho Vortex as a term, like now he's saying and alluding to. But someone, Tony Khan needs to stop him. And there's a lot more I could say about the learning tree gimmick, but I don't want to bore you all. So unless I get another question. Okay, Lady B says, did I miss Stephanie ranting about AEW merch guy? No, I haven't ranted about AEW merch guy. I'll say this because this was something that happened on Twitter yesterday. And I'm sure like a lot of you didn't see it and the tweets have been deleted and whatever. And I'm not going to name this guy because I don't want him to get any heat and I don't want to get any heat. But there was a Twitter conversation that happened between a Twitter user, let's say, and someone that works for AEW merch about the merch situation. And the AEW guy's tweets, in my opinion, were just wild that he was saying this. He was basically justifying like the lack of them merchandising people by saying stuff that, Sting wasn't on TV enough, so it wasn't worth merchandising him properly until he did his retirement run. And then he said that some company had basically fucked them over when it came to making Lucha Bros masks. And therefore, like, that's why we haven't had wrestler masks. And it was something that I can imagine my local indie promoter who does sell Lucha masks saying, like, this is a company owned by a billionaire that's been around for 5 years, and you can't get Lucha Brothers masks made because someone you used didn't come through for you. So then what, like, you never tried again? And then he also said that he didn't have any masks or anything ready for hologram because he didn't know what hologram looked like until he appeared. Excuse me. I've also got a very bad cough as well, so I'm sorry about that. And yeah, it was just like a wild to say. It was the kind of stuff you'd expect someone saying who worked for like a small company that is struggling and a company that like doesn't have the funds to make merchandise that they might profit off, not someone working for a company that is owned by a billionaire. And I understand that AEW is aware of the problems when it comes to merchandise. They are aware of the fans saying that the merchandising isn't good. And my belief is that they're trying, but at the same time, we're 5 years in and some of the problems are crazy. Like I've said many times, Danielson, Moxley, Jericho, I've never seen their t-shirts on sale at a live event. And yet, because they're ex-WWE superstars, like that's who I see the fans talking about. So I think that you can give them a little bit of grace, but not too much, because this is not a little startup that didn't have financial backing. Tony has all the money in the world. He had enough money to pay Green Day on Dynamite, but he can't fix these merch problems. Like, come on, you know. So I thought the merch guys' tweets were a little, I would say they did not make AEW look good, and they did not make Tony Khan look good, and it doesn't surprise me that he deleted them. And then he went back to talking about the merch situation in like like softer terms, shall we say, where it didn't seem like he would hate his own company. But yeah, it was absolutely wild. I know there's some other questions, but there's two about merch that I'll just do next. Ed says, is it odd that we are having merchandise issues from a company that people used to call a t-shirt company? 100%. So I don't know anything about Dana Massey and like what she did, and I know a lot of people blame her, put heat on her, and she did end up leaving the company, but I don't think these things are her fault. One thing that is a big problem in AEW, though, is nepotism. And nepotism just doesn't mean like your family member getting a job, but it means your friends getting a job too, your girlfriend getting a job, all this kind of stuff. And I don't think, whatever Dana Massey's role was, I don't think she was equipped to do it. And she just shouldn't have been given it, because it's very, sorry, I'm trying to something to put my leg on so it feels better. It's very different selling your husband's t-shirts to doing merchandise for a company like this. I do think I heard Shawn WhatsApp on his Q&A basically saying he thinks, and that it hasn't been confirmed, that they did some kind of deal with PWTs, maybe have some kind of stake in PWTs. And I think that maybe going with PWTs was a bad idea. I can see why they did it, but I don't think PWTs was equipped to handle it either. So it is very strange that we're having these merch issues from this company, and a lot of the t-shirt designs are really terrible too. It's not just like the live event merch. They've had some shocking t-shirt designs. Lady B, who has seen the merch guys tweets, I know that, says merch guys tweets expose a lack of preparation when it comes to talent. Like, they are going to have Julia merch ready the moment she steps on TV, all planned out. It's not that hard. Absolutely. How many times do you watch a WWE show and someone debuts and their shirts are on WWE shop immediately, or they have shirts at the live event? Yeah, saying like holograms specifically, like clearly hologram is a little Tony Khan project, right? It's his little, like, we can create a superhero type wrestler that will appeal to kids. Something that, you know, Rey Mysterio is a superhero to many kids. So holograms like Tony's little pet project. And I think here it comes in the kind of problem with Tony Khan, because Tony is obsessed with the wrestling side of things. So he's like, this is what hologram's entrance will be like. This is what he'll look like. This is the music, everything. But then he neglects the things outside of wrestling, outside of the ring, sorry, that make all these things really work and reach their full potential. So if he's there obsessing over creating this hologram character that's going to appeal to kids, he also needs to, like, hey, tell the merch guy what hologram looks like to have hologram stuff ready. And this merch guy, in his tweets, he said about there's no point having merch of people who aren't on TV or something like that, aren't on TV enough. Jey Uso was not on SummerSlam, and Yeet stuff was everywhere, and it just makes you feel like this guy is so completely over. So yeah, you really do need to merchandise these things. Mark Bright says, wrestler-specific merch is something that could have been on sale at All In last year. New Japan had wrestler merch a couple months later at Royal Quest. If they can do that, no reason AEW can't. Yeah, they so I wasn't at Royal Quest, but I know that Rev Pro work with New Japan and getting the merch. I actually, a couple of years ago, God, it was probably like 4 years ago now, I worked the merch stand at Royal Quest for Rev Pro, and the amount of t-shirts was insane. Like the amount that we sold, the amount of stuff that we had, it was absolutely crazy. That was a hard day's work. And yeah, it's an indictment of AEW that they can't do these things. They should have been shipping merch over to Wembley like a month ago. I don't know if they had, but I hate all these like I was there t-shirts, and I own a couple of them, right? But and people will buy those, but you need the wrestler specific merch. Like you really do, especially wrestlers that are trying to get a specific catchphrase or character over. Like Swerve should have so much merch because he's your AEW champion and you want him to seem like he's a big deal. And if there were people in the crowd wearing like Swerve t-shirts or even having like Swerve's house foam fingers, he'd seem like so much of a bigger deal than he actually does. And they actually put Mercedes. I was there for Mercedes' debut in Boston, and after she came out, they had like one or two t-shirts with Mercedes, but they were kind of specific to, being there for her debut. They were absolutely rotten. Absolutely some of the worst t-shirts I had ever seen. They looked like they were designed backstage like an hour before they were put on sale. They were absolutely horrible. And just doing the merch ones at the minute. Hi to Platt. I see K hologram design to the last minute. I mean, he has that pattern, but I do think that he really worked on hologram. I do think it's like his little pet project. Lady B, if I was a wrestler, I'd be pissed. Do they not want merch checks? Some wrestlers are pissed. I'll say that because they do not only want the merch checks, but they want to seem over. So the merch frustration is not just from fans, it's from wrestlers too. Right. I'm going back. I've had some really good questions and more to come. So thank you guys. Get your questions in. Thoughts on Monet versus Shida? I thought it was okay, a bit clunky in parts. Just on Shida, I really feel sorry for Shida. Like this time last year, Shida was champion, and she then got jobbed out to Saraya, which was a really bad decision, just something like done for the moment. And look at where Saraya is now, fucking begging to get on the card, and I'm sure she will. Hopefully, Jamie Hayter like destroys her and sends her out of the promotion, and she can go hang out with J.K. Rowling and other turfs. But I always feel sorry for Shida because when I've interviewed her a couple of times, and my God, like she works really, really hard. And she was champion during the pandemic, which was difficult, but she really, really wants to do something for this company. Like she really wants to carry the women's division. She has worked so hard and learning English just so she can do what she feels you need to do to be the top star in the division, like just so she can do promos. She's so up for doing interviews in order to use her English. She works so hard. And I think that she's always kind of used as the reliable wrestler, but she never really gets the spotlighting that she deserves and what she's worked towards. So it was great to see Shida and Dynamite. I also just thought doing that match was pretty weird. I mean, Mercedes has what could be the biggest match in the history of the women's division coming up, and they just let someone else challenge her for the title like a week before. That was weird. Jay said, I watched Jeff Jarrett versus Danielson, and the match was almost what Drew Punk won at SummerSlam should have been. Yeah, I thought it was a really good match. Jeff Jarrett's on fire right now. I've been really, really enjoying him. He's been really good. Jeff is the Forrest Gump of wrestling. There's no part of wrestling history that you can't connect back to Jeff Jarrett. Fascinating guy. Some more merch stuff. Okay. Maria says, what percentage of a chance do you give AEW and Shane McMahon coming to terms and getting a deal done? 75%. I don't want to see Shane in AEW, but I think it's something that Tony won't be able to resist. I think that I get why you bring him in to try and pop a rating, but if you don't pop a high rating with Shane McMahon, then you just look silly. So I get why you would bring him in. And I get that Shane is not Vince, so anything that I'm saying against Shane coming into AEW is nothing to do with Vince McMahon and the sex trafficking. So, he's not in any way responsible for his father's crimes or anything like that. But he's still a McMahon. And AEW was created to stop the McMahon monopoly on wrestling, to give us a different company and a different flavor of wrestling. And letting a McMahon in there is, to me, just another example of AEW moving further and further away from like the original concept that made fans so passionate about the company. And I don't know what Shane McMahon's relationship is like with his father, Vince, or his sister, Stephanie, who is married to Paul Levesque, who's, steering the ship over at WWE. But I think just bringing him into AEW puts yourself in some sort of family feud. Now, it might not be a family feud where Shane is like throwing flamethrowers at Vince and hating his dad or hating his sister. But the fact of Shane doing AEW and not WWE means that there's something going on there. And why would you want to put yourself in that or be like involved in any way? I don't think it would be the win for AEW that some people think it would. Shane McMahon coming in, it would be funny, but I'm not sure I want to laugh at it. Yeah. Okay. Let me see. There's like a lot of questions. Oh wow. I'm excited to answer some of these. Keep them coming, guys. Okay, Stephanie, do you think CM Punk will introduce his friend Ricky Starks on the NXT Chicago CW debut? What do you think Punk's relationship is like with Shawn Michaels and Triple H? NXT Chicago. I am interested in going to that. I heard Shawn say in an interview yesterday that Triple H will be, or that CM Punk will be heavily involved. And that makes me want to go. Who could I see debuting on that? I mean, maybe Ricky, but I think my dream for that debut is honestly Daniel Garcia. And now, unless a report has happened since I've been live, I believe that Daniel Garcia has not made his decision yet. And there's like a lot more I could talk about on that. But I'll just say like it's a really, really hard decision. I personally think he should give NXT a shot because I think he's perfect for what they're currently doing. But also that also, I don't know how he'd fare in the main roster, and that's what makes it a hard decision. But I would love to see Garcia appear at the NXT Chicago Dynamite. But Ricky appearing would be great too. I think Punk's relationship with Shawn and Triple H is really good. I think he's really trying. I think he wants Shawn's job. He wants to be the NXT guy when he retires, and that would be very interesting. So I think he has a good relationship with them. I think Punk Punk wants to prove he can work with anyone and he can do business with anyone. He wants to prove that he wasn't the bad guy in AEW, and he's trying to do that by fully embracing WWE and everything about WWE. There is no more of a, like, CM right now stands for company man Punk. So I think his relationship is good with everyone, and I think he's willing to work with anyone, and he's willing to mend any fences in WWE in order to prove that he wasn't the problem. And there were fences in AEW that he was not willing to mend. And I mean, when he came into the company, there were people in that company that he had issues with, and he was not willing to mend those fences. He definitely is in WWE, in my opinion. Punk, hello, says, what do you think of Shawn Michaels saying that CM Punk reached out to him and asked if he could help him do something important for NXT and the CW and in general? What do you think of Roman Reigns? So I guess I kind of answered that. I think that Punk, yeah, he wants to be a big part of NXT. I mean, you can listen to my interview with Roxanne Perez, and she talks about CM Punk. He's giving his time over to NXT. Shawn saying that, yeah, makes me want to go to the NXT in Chicago, and I think I will. I can't say that I'm definitely going. I'm trying to figure out if it's worth my while going when it comes to media opportunities and stuff like this. My dream interview is CM Punk, but I want to get him properly, if you know what I mean. Like, I want to do a proper, full, like, Helwani style interview with CM Punk. Not that I would just ask him AEW questions. I think I've only got like 2 or 3 AEW questions that I want to ask him, but I'm going to see if it's worth my while going to Chicago. The NXT, so when NXT went on the USA Network, I think 5 years ago, the night that Dynamite debuted was NXT's live debut on the USA Network, and I was there, and it was treated as a huge event. I spent the day in the WWE Performance Center, where I interviewed Triple H and a ton of talent there, including Adam Cole. I then met Stephanie McMahon at like a little pre-party before, and yeah, I got to watch that show live. So they made a huge deal out of that. So I'm very intrigued if they're going to do that for the CW debut. ECW had great merchandise, absolutely great. Wait, what was shitty? Let me know what was shitty. Okay. B. Easyland says, early WrestleMania directions for the women. I would hope for Bianca versus Jade, Liv versus Rhea versus Io, and Charlotte versus Tiffany, plus a women's tag. Very intrigued of what they're going to do with Rhea Ripley and how long they're going to keep this Liv Morgan storyline going. But I want to see Rhea against everyone. I spent yesterday morning watching Rhea and Dom videos, and I was so entertained. Like, you remember when they crashed Christmas Day with the Mysterios? Amazing. Bianca versus Jade, I hope they're building towards that. Yeah, I think that would be a big match. And I hope they take care of Jade. if she does a big match at Mania with Bianca, given Bianca's amazing track record, I hope that they train Jade well, let her rehearse the match, all those kind of things, so she has the best possible chance of putting on the best in-ring performance. Charlotte versus Tiffany that'd be pretty cool. I really like Tiffany Stratton as a character a lot, and I'm intrigued with the her and Nia storyline and how long they keep that going. I mean, I think she's keeping that briefcase till 2025 because they're selling them on WWE Shop. The last time I looked, they don't ship till December. They're going to want people to get those for Christmas. I think she's keeping the briefcase for a long time. Fernando, who should win at Wembley between Toni Storm and Mariah May? Toni Storm. I think that for the story, that would be better because Mariah did this really evil thing to Toni, pretending to be her friend, pretending to be close to her, and then turning on her in like the most violent way possible. So, and it's made Toni more unhinged. So I think it's best for the story if Toni wins. But Mariah is from the UK. It'd be cool to see her get a big moment. But also, she shouldn't be cheered because she's definitely the heel in this situation. I personally would book Toni Storm to win. Jay says, what do you think about the whole Liv Dom story? I really like it. I loved the beginning of Raw this week. Look, Liv Morgan is not Meryl Streep, and she doesn't have to be. I think the storyline is really good. Rhea and Dom, as I just said, I was watching the old videos of them. What that storyline was incredible in how it really gave Dominic Mysterio his place. Like they took the attributes that Dom has and used them to their advantage. It's a great storyline. And what they've done with Liv has been really good too. I like this storyline. I like how it weaves into the larger Judgment Day breakup. Yeah, it's one of my favorite storylines in wrestling right now. And that opening to Raw, that made me feel Attitude Era. See, like Liv and Dom in the crowd. The atmosphere, the heat seemed amazing. Damian Priest coming behind Dominic was a great visual. So I absolutely love the Liv Dom Rhea story. Okay. Mike says, if you could rate Cody's title reign so far from 1 to 10, what would it be? His feuds have been looking, but it's not really his fault. They just haven't fed him strong heels. Agree. I would give him a 7. I think it's hard because his feud with Roman was so intense, so long. It's kind of hard to do anything after that, and also like the presence of Roman and the bloodline still lingers. His last opponent, Solo Sikoa, was not up to the challenge of main eventing a pay-per-view, and that's why they did Bloodline Rules. His match with AJ was very good, but it wasn't like a great storyline. He's going to defend against Kevin Owens, and it's the whole "we're friends, you deserve a title" shot thing. So I'm very sorry. He hasn't had the meaty feuds, but he carries himself as a champion. He has the presentation of a champion. He works very fucking hard to show you that he is the guy in this company. And that's why he's getting higher marks for me, because I love a champion who presents themselves as a champion. You can't just be told you're the top guy. You also like need to believe it yourself and make it yourself. And Cody's transformation has been incredible. So a 7 out of 10. Where do you think the machine guns are headed? AEW or WWE? I think WWE, to be honest. Lady B, it's been nearly 6 months since It's been nearly 6 months since AEW aired the All In footage with Punk. Now that we've seen the fallout and how the story played out, was it worth it? Did it even work? Would you call it a success? No, I would not call it a success. Okay, so I think that Jack Perry has done a very good job with the scapegoat character. I think Jack Perry is like a bit of a success coming out of everything. I will see how his match with Darby goes. I think that's going to be a good match. I believe they never should have aired the All In footage. And I also believe that a lot of people in the company thought they should not have aired the All In footage. Look, Punk should not, I don't condone Punk behavior. But there was, to me, nothing in that footage that made Punk seem like he was telling egregious lies on Ariel Helwani's podcast. They aired this footage during WrestleMania. Punk was injured and not competing in WrestleMania yet. He was one of the main players. He was all over TV, stuff like that. Money, like McAfee, like whatever. So they just put this guy on their TV who has moved on to be a main player in WWE. And I'm like, why are you going back to this? It is my belief that there are people in AEW that are like obsessed with Punk. And they need to stop because they're like jilted lovers. And this was a very jilted lover thing to do. It was not a big got you on Punk. It just wasn't worth it at all. It made AEW look really petty. And when they aired it, I was genuinely upset about it. Not because, they were showing something bad about CM Punk, or anything like that. It wasn't upset to do with Punk. I just felt that AEW should be better and not do these petty things. And I thought it made the company look really, really bad. And if it wasn't for the fact that the wrestling news cycle is so constant, we'd still be talking about it in a negative light. So no, I wouldn't have done it at all. They're just giving publicity to Punk. They need to move on from CM Punk. But when the people get obsessed with, like that's for sure. But I do like all the scapegoat stuff with Jack Perry. And I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago on my Substack when I was talking about CM Punk versus Drew. But the people that have benefited from the drama that CM Punk is involved in AEW is WWE. Like, they're using so much of that during the Punk and Drew feud. And Punk is like, Drew takes some really close to the edge, like barbs at Punk. And so far, so good. Punk's allowed him to. And I honestly think he's just trying to show that he's not this thin-skinned guy, that he's willing to work with people to make money. And obviously, allegedly, the Young Bucks weren't willing to work with him and it would have made money. So whether you love or hate CM Punk, he is making the best of the situation in WWE in a way that AEW wasn't able to. And maybe that's to do with Tony not being able to compel people to work with Punk that should have worked with Punk. There was a lot of people in AEW that were willing to work with Punk when he came back, whether they liked him or not, but not the Young Bucks. That's a failure. Yeah, this Saraya J.K. Rowling thing was shitty, but I stand by that. It's it's something I probably shouldn't be talking about, but I will just say that the trans community are going through a lot, and there's a lot of people that they're using they're using trans people as like this hot button issue, and it's really horrible to see how much transphobia is out there. And Soraya's boyfriend Ron Manick is extremely transphobic, and it doesn't matter that he allowed or had Blair White in one of his videos, because Blair White is on the right. She's someone who operates on the like I'm the exception thing, which you do unfortunately see with some marginalized people. Anyway, and Soraya going after LGBTQ plus young people who speak out about Ronnie is fucking horrible, and I honestly wouldn't have her on my TV because of that. But yeah, support advice. That's all I've got to say on that. Do you think AJ Lee would ever come back for anything, whether it's a match or just backstage? So tough, because like AJ is like never around. Like you don't ever see her pictured with Punk or at shows with Punk or backstage or anything. And there's still like definitely because he's so mad about that bracelet. Well, apparently he's not mad about it anymore, but you know what I mean. So sometimes I'm thinking, like, are they setting up a return for AJ? I feel like AJ wasn't happy with WWE when she left, but the fact that she didn't return to AEW to do anything shows me that she might just be done with wrestling and move on. I think we will see AJ at some point, but I'm not sure that she wants to come back to the ring. How do you feel Pete Dunne is getting booked in WWE? I'm not a fan of Pete Dunne at all, but I thought his bit on Raw was really good. He talked butch stuff. It was probably the most interested I've been in him in like his whole career. I'm just not a Pete Dunne fan. But his booking will improve with Triple H because Triple H really likes him. I really hope I don't knock over my camera while I try and get comfortable. Thoughts on Mercedes' current run in AEW? Her matches have been pretty good. Her promos are really, really bad, and it's kind of wild to me that she's come in with her own writer, Jennifer Pepperman, and she needs like some kind of acting training or something, because the promos are quite dreadful. Her promo in ring 2 weeks ago to set up the Britt Baker video was awful. And I'm not trying to be like mean when I say that. I love Mercedes. That's why I traveled to Boston to see her debut. But the promos have really reduced her star power to me, because they're just very, very bad. And I think she needs training on that more than she needs a writer. Is Tanga Loa the worst wrestler of the year? He can't do anything right. Per Tanga Loa. He seems like a nice guy. But he's had some botches for sure. Another Tanga Loa question. Do you enjoy the fumbles of funny moments of the infamous Tanga Loa? Is Tanga Loa wrestling's best comedian? I heard Ibu talking about Tanga Loa the other day, and apparently he's like very apologetic when he does something wrong, but it pops people in the back so much that like, okay, it's okay. So per Tanga Loa. Jay says, when we think about Triple H's booking style, I think like wrestling is going in a bad place with this cinema storyline bullshit. CM Punk doing it at SummerSlam made me angry. I don't really have any problems with Triple H's booking style. I think he's like a slow, methodical booker, kind of like how he was as a worker. And he can draw things out quite a lot. But I have enjoyed it. Is wrestling going in a bad place? I don't think it is. However, I do think that the era of work rate is over. I think there was a while when we were all obsessed with work rate, and this goes in cycles because there was no work rate when Hulk Hogan was on top, right? And there was work rate when we had Brett and Shawn. Don't think there was work rate when we had John Cena, but there was like an explosion of like work rate being the thing, and it led to some incredible matches. It led to, like the Kenny Omega and Okada. And I think things go in cycles, like trends. It's the same with music. It's the same with fashion. And I think that we're at the end of the work rate trend, and now people are going back to more it being about the story. And yes, some people are going to hate that. Some people, my great friend Manny from Grapple, he loves the stories. But some people want the pure work rate. So if you want work rate, you can find that in AEW, you can find that in some indie promotions, you can find that in Japan. But I think the trend cycle is stories, and that WWE understands that, and that's part of why they're so popular right now. Do you think Roman Reigns is trying to politically undermine and overshadow Cody? Roman Reigns feels like the top guy to me. He always scoffs at what Cody Rhodes did on the indies in AEW. Roman, I think Roman is the top guy, but like Cody's like biting at his heels. I don't know what Roman's like politically. I did hear watch any stream that it was on, but I did hear him mention something about how Roman wants I think match with Jacob in a cage at Bad Blood, which would push out Drew and CM Punk doing it, which that feels like the natural thing to do. So I think that Roman plays political games. I see Roman, and this might not be accurate because I've never talked to anyone in WWE about it, but I see him as kind of like detached from the rest of the roster, and he has very specific ideas about what he wants to do, and he may not factor in other people. And I mean, like the whole WrestleMania build with Dwayne and stuff and Cody getting pushed out was crazy. So I think politically, Cody might have a hard time with Roman, but I think Cody, he's more committed to being around and being the face of WWE than Roman is. Roman is more like a part-time guy, and Cody's the one you can rely on. What match did you watch that made you the big wrestling fan you are right now? No match stuck out. I started watching wrestling when I was about 6 years old, and I saw Randy Savage on my TV, and I just fell in love with him. So in the early days of watching wrestling, there weren't specific matches that stood out to me. I wasn't looking at work rate. I had no idea about matches. I thought this was all real. And I just loved it. I had full on love at first sight with Randy Savage, and that made me become a wrestling fan. And then I got into other wrestlers, but he just pulled me in. Everything about him, his character, the way he looked, how colorful he was. So yeah, no match, just the Macho Man existing. And I wasn't even seeing peak Macho Man, I was seeing the WCW version, but yeah, it's all to do with Randy. Why do you think AEW continues to have TV production issues like audio and a Taco Bell commercial in the middle of a wrestling program? I don't know. It is so funny that we're 5 years in and stuff like that still happens. It's really, really funny. How long have I been going? I've been going over an hour. Okay, that's crazy. So there's a couple of questions left, but if you have any more to ask me about anything, get them in now. But this has been amazing that I've got so many questions here. I love it. What are your views on Camille since her AEW debut? I don't think this is what Camille wants to be doing, honestly. I think Camille would prefer being brought in with like a Jade Cargill style push. I really like Camille. And I have to say, and I know people are going to disagree with me, and I know Mercedes herself is going to disagree with me. I think Mercedes should not be wearing the heels next to Camille. I know she said in a promo that people mentioned this and like that she's a supermodel, but the thing is, no, Camille, you need Camille to look like an Amazonian giant next to the other women. I am 5'1". If I was a wrestler and they said to me, we're going to pair you with Camille, I would not be like, you guys know that if I was a wrestler on TV with a ton of money, I would be presenting myself to even better than Mercedes Moné, right? Because I am a drag queen. I am an old movie star. I am rock and roll. Imagine what I'd look like, what I'd wear if I had money, right? If you said to me, we're pairing you with Camille, I would not be like, well, I'm going to wear 6-inch heels because I'm a supermodel. I would be in my flats to make that woman look as impressive as possible. So I really like Camille. I support Camille. I think this pairing could be good if we ironed out, some of the wrinkles in it. But I'd be more excited to see what Camille could do, not being just a heel for Mercedes. Lady B. It's crazy because when Mercedes cut promos on her Instagram Live, she's so much better, way more natural. When she's on TV, she goes back to the cringe. It's so strange. So I haven't seen much of her Instagram Live promos. I will say about Mercedes, I've seen some of her interviews when she was Sasha Banks, after she was Sasha Banks, and I've interviewed her myself. I think she has a real problem with kind of just being herself and not always being in a fully turned up character. And I think sometimes when she's so in character, she seems so unnatural that it's just such a turnoff, and like she's genuinely unlikable. I interviewed her once, and I would put her in the category of people that it was very, very difficult to interview her. Very difficult to get anything out of her. Very difficult to feel like you were talking to a human being. So I think she's just someone that's never going to be fully comfortable speaking, being on TV, being herself or anything like that. I think she, an over the top character is like her mask that she puts on, that she needs to go out there with. Sometimes it like heavily backfires. I just don't think she's a comfortable public speaker, on TV speaker. It's wild that she's been in a TV show, The Mandalorian, and her acting it's just not good. There's things that she could do to help herself, and I know what it's like to be nervous and stuff, and I think I can come across nervous sometimes when I'm not even feeling nervous. But yeah, I think Mercedes has like a lot of things to work on, and in WWE they hid this way better than they're doing in AEW. Yeah. Punk promo with Kathy Kelly was funny, buried the whole match at SummerSlam. CM Punk reads the internet. Sorry, that's he does. Anything you say about him, CM Punk knows, and if it's a negative thing like that, he wants to let you know that he knows. He's actually very like Jericho in that sense. Jericho taking the Jericho Vortex thing is just like CM Punk burying the bracelet. We know that Britt had backstage issues with MJF and Thunder Rosa. Now the situation with MJF and his girlfriend. Oh, okay, sorry, I totally learned this. We know that Britt had backstage issues with Thunder Rosa, and now the situation with MJF and his girlfriend is Britt becoming a backstage cancer. I don't know enough about her to say that, but I think every story has two sides. I think that Britt is a very strong personality who came into a company that did not have a top woman, and she wanted to make herself that. And she did it through not just hard work, but sheer strength of will and personality. I don't think she's becoming a backstage cancer. I think there are multiple sides to all these stories. I really always thought Thunder Rosa was very hard done by in that situation. When it comes to the MJF situation, I don't think Britt is alone in uh, in having issues with MJF. She is not alone at all. MJF is definitely the person that Tony is banking on, and making a lot of allowances for, shall we say. And it just so happened Britt was the one who spoke her mind about it. Thank you, 10 Gaming. Who are a few people that you want to interview? Just some quick names off the top of my head. As I said, CM Punk, but I want it to be proper. Tony Khan, I want that to be proper. I still want to get Tony Khan. The Bella Twins, and Daniel Garcia, if he will speak openly about everything. And yeah, Mike Santana, who I've asked but hasn't replied to me. That would be great. What do you think of the state of UK wrestling with Progress and Rev Pro Wrestling? I think that Rev Pro is incredible and has been upholding the British wrestling scene for years now. And I will always support Rev Pro. I used to work there. I have had some of the best experiences of my life in Rev Pro. Their owner, Andy Quilden, is the person in wrestling who has been the kindest to me in the entirety of wrestling. Progress is dead. That's all I'll say. Mike, what match do you think should headline WrestleMania next year? Cody Rock, Rock Roman, or something else entirely? Cody Rock, 100%. It will be a 2-night affair, but if Cody is going to do it, or if Rock is going to do it, Rock Cody. I don't think Roman will be happy about that, but Rock Cody. Okay, we're coming to the end here. I've got 2 left. Darren says, enjoy this live stream. When will be your next one? Okay. So when it comes to my content and what I'm doing, I am going to All In next week, which involves me flying from Toronto to Manchester to then go to Liverpool to stay there for a couple of days, to then go to London for All In. Then I will be going to Ireland to my mother's house for a couple of days. Then I will be going to Chicago with my mother and attending All Out. And then I will be back in Toronto. So that's a few countries and a few cities that I'm going to be in for the next 2 weeks. So no live streams. But when I get back to Toronto, after All Out, so early September, I have a ton of things planned that I'm going to do. And one thing that I want to get back to, and if you guys like this idea and want and support it, let me know. And I've tried to keep the channel membership really low priced, because I want to get back to doing Dynamite reviews. I want to do them live, and I want to do them where I invite channel members to come on and give their opinion, kind of like what Weird Keller does. So that's my goal, to get back to weekly Dynamite reviews, make it interactive, so I'm not just sitting here by myself talking. I've got a super chat here from Lady B. Thank you so much. Lady B is a great supporter, a great person to talk to. So lots of love to Lady B. Thank you. As you relaunch YouTube, what are your goals for the channel? Have a great weekend. So yeah, that's my goal. Get back to doing live Dynamite reviews, but make them interactive. Also, I last week recorded a podcast episode based on my newsletter. I'm going to be doing that every week. My one for this week is late. It might come out on Sunday, or I might hold it off Monday because things don't do well on the weekend. And it's late because of my current health situation anyway. So that podcast, I want to record the video. I want to record it as a video podcast, put the video for members, and the audio will be free on all platforms. And then stuff I talk about, I want to make like little clips, little short videos from, which I previously had on my channel. Like, for example, I have a channel on my video that's like how Jericho killed Daniel Garcia's career, right? That's taken from a previous like podcast recording that I did. So those are really easy to make because I think that right now on YouTube, you have to make things that draw people in. And I don't mean, I'm not going to do clickbait, which is like AEW dying or whatever. But there are things that you have to do with clickbait titles to get people, like we all, like, let's just be honest about that. So if I do something like, yeah, how Jericho killed Daniel Garcia's career, I did one before called AEW Field Jade Cargill. These things that, excuse me, those kind of things get really good hits and they help me build my channel. The interviews, so my current interview schedule is at least one a week. I have an interview coming on Monday, and I'll tell you now, it is with Hyan, who is someone that I really love and admire. She was recently on Ring of Honor against Taya Valkyrie. I have a really good in-depth interview with her coming on Monday, and hopefully I'll be having another interview go up next week. So working on one interview a week, working on contacting wrestlers and stuff like that to get them to come and do interviews. The interviews don't get as many clicks as you think they would because my channel isn't established enough. So it's kind of hard to entice wrestlers to come on your channel when you're on, like, how many subscribers am I on? I'm just being honest about these things, as I like to talk openly. So I'm on 2,772 subscribers right now. My goal for the end of the year is to get to 5K. I think if I get to around 5K, I can get more interviews, because the channel, I really want to be about interviews. That's what I really want to do. I want to establish myself as that girl that does these great wrestling interviews. I need more subscribers. I need more views. And that's why I'll probably be doing some videos that might seem like a little bit clickbaity, but it's just to get those people in. But I'll always, of course, be giving honest, unbiased opinions, talking about like things I actually believe in. So yeah. So and live streams are going to help too. I think me doing live Dynamite reviews will really help the channel. I just can't say like, oh, I'm going to do it next week, because I'm going to be in probably traveling to London after Dynamite next week, or the week after that I'm going to be in my mom's house. But once I get back here, I have my setup here, I can do stuff like live Dynamite reviews. That will probably be like 12 Eastern is like the best time for me. But I'm working really hard on getting people on my channel. There's a lot of wrestlers I've reached out to. Some have replied, some haven't, but I'm really trying to get the ball rolling. And I'm very, grateful for stuff like getting an interview with Jade Cargill up there, because that means the next wrestler that I try to get an interview with, I can say, well, my last interview was with Jade Cargill. So I, seem like a big deal. So that's really cool. So that was a terrible answer to your question, Lady P. But yes, my goals are just to grow this channel in every way I can and establish myself as an interviewer. Okay, last couple of ones all from Maria. Thank you for your support, Maria. Do you think Joe Hendry is going to become a huge star? Yes, but I think there's a ceiling on it, and I think he knows that as well. I think he's going to be mid-card, kind of comedy act, but I think he's going to do very, very well for himself. He's not going to be WWE champion. I don't think he thinks he's going to be WWE champion, but he can certainly do something like, I'm not going to say like The Miz, but you know what I mean. Thank you, Maria. And thank you so much for the compliment. I think I will hope. I think as an interviewer, I don't like the way I deliver questions, and I need to get better at that. But I do think that I ask very good questions that I put a lot of thought into. And I'm not trying to be arrogant, but you know, a lot of the time I'm like very, very down on myself. So sometimes it's important to compliment yourself today. You know, I was actually pretty happy when I was reading the Observer with my coffee, and I saw my name in it based on my interview with Michael Oku, and based on asking Michael Oku about the politics of his match with MJF. That actually made me really happy. Okay, guys, I did near an hour and a half. So thank you so much for everyone that tuned in. That was very cool that so many people watched and sent me questions. I love it. Yeah, and I know like the channel kind of went dark for a while. And that was for like many different reasons. And as a lot of you probably know, a couple months ago, I lost my job with Digital Spy. They ended their wrestling coverage after 5 years. And that fucking sucked. And I had to take some time to think about what I was going to do, because initially I thought like, I'm not going to be able to do anything on my own. No one's going to support me. No one's going to give me interviews or whatever. And then I had some offers from different places, which was very nice. And all of those offers are kind of like still on the table. But I thought about it, and just before Money in the Bank, I was like, is there any chance I can just be me and create my own thing? And I found out that yes, I could. And when I was at Money in the Bank, I was talking. There were three people that really inspired me. One was my friend DS, who runs Ring the Bell, and he's amazing. It is incredible what he does, and he does it all by himself. And the other two people were Brandon Thurston and John Pollock. And I was recording a podcast with them, and then DS came and sat with me. And when I was recording this podcast with John and Brandon, this is such a fucking tangent to end on, but whatever. I'm just being honest. When I was recording this podcast with John and Brandon, I started really thinking about what is it that I want to do and how do I want to do it. And they work so well and ethically and have so much integrity and stuff like that. And then I was thinking that, you know, DS is able to do this, to do Ring the Bell and make something of it all by himself. And I was like, if I can be like somewhere in the middle of this, if I can be someone who does interviews on YouTube that are insightful and fun and people like them, that's amazing. But then if I can also write in a way that is honest and serious and looks at wrestling critically, and treats it as something worthy of analysis, then I want to do that too. So that's why I decided to do my weekly newsletter and Substack, and also continue doing with the interviews. And I also realized that I am best just being out there on my own. I don't want to have to answer to anyone. I don't think that there's enough spaces in wrestling that are fully female owned, operated, everything like that. Like when I try and get, you know, interviews, I say like I'm fully female operated run thing, because like there's not enough of that, and I think that sometimes we're put in a position where like we have to follow the lead of the man in charge, and I don't ever want that. I want to always be able to be honest and say what I think, regardless of how anyone else feels. So yeah, anyway, weird tangent to end on, but I was just trying to explain to you guys, because some of you have asked me before, like, where I've been or what's been going on, or what's, when's my next whatever, what I'm doing. So I just like try to always honestly say like what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why I'm doing things at certain times. So anyway, keep an eye on this channel, and you guys, you better be subscribed if you're watching, but keep an eye on this channel for more interviews, of course, and we'll let you know when I decide to live stream again. As I said, I intend to do Dynamite reviews post All Out, but I'm pretty sure I will do a live stream sometime between now and All Out. It's just whenever I have like a little bit of time, but I will try and give you guys the most notice, and I'll try not to be late, but that's a little bit harder. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me, and bye.